Well, welcome everyone. It's definitely a wonderful evening, better than most, especially for Melbourne. We are privileged today to have a wonderful guest speaker from Best Trans, and I'm sure along with all of you that you'd like to welcome and enjoy the presentation that Adam will be talking to us on, which will be the topic of intelligent docks, reducing congestion, demurrage, overtime and emissions. But before we do actually begin the event, I'd like to go through some house rules while we're listening to our speaker. So first of all, please remember to keep your microphones on mute all throughout the webinar to avoid unnecessary noise that might be a distraction to our speaker and perhaps prevent others from clearly hearing what is being presented. Secondly, could I also ask everyone to hit the reaction button at the bottom of your Zoom panels so that we know that everyone understands what they're for. I know we probably all are quite familiar with Zoom now. We're not new to it, but you know, sometimes we have some technical issues. So we have a little reactions button there. Maybe if we could all press that and press maybe the heart button or the thumbs up or the celebration. That all seems to be working. We're getting some good clicks there. Fantastic. Okay, and in the chat box, for any questions that you might have during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat box. But let's just see that that works as well. So if we just type it, one or two of you type the word yes in there, and I will be able to see that that's working as well. Okay, that's all looking good as well. Okay, I'd like to finally just remind all guests that at the conclusion of the presentation, there will be Q&A and we'll go through any questions that you have or have put into that chat box. Any questions that for one reason or another we don't cover, we will answer for you in a separate email should time not be on our side. Also, at the conclusion, we will have breakout rooms allocated, and for 15 to 20 minutes, you'll have the opportunity to network with those other attending guests this evening. And during that networking session, you'll have the opportunity to talk about first your name, where you're from, and any challenges that may be facing you at this current point of time. So feel free to exchange any contact details if you wish to with any of those in the breakout room. And that's just our interactive way of networking. Right, so we're all ready, set and go. So now may I introduce our speaker, Adam Welch. Yeah, is it Welsh?
Welch, yep.
Yeah, I'm a Welsh, so he's a Welch. He's a practice manager assurance on assurance at Best Trans. Adam has more than 20 years experience in the equipment, hire and rental industry. He has worked in transport management, transportation management, procurement and safety. He brings a unique blend of operational experience to the Best Trans team. Adam's focus is on ensuring clients are able to operate their fleet in the most safe, compliant and financially efficient manner. Adam ensures Best Trans are supplying world best practice technology and solutions to manage both on-road and off-road fleets. Let's give us a warm welcome to Adam as he discusses intelligent docks, reducing congestion, demurrage, overtime and emissions. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Karen. I'll just share a screen. So hopefully everyone can now see the presentation. So thanks again, Karen. I'll rearrange my screen slightly. So as Karen just said, I'm the Manager of Assurance Services at Best Train. Best Train is a business that focuses on the supply of technology solutions to the logistics industry. Our head office is in Melbourne, in Australia, and I'm located in Brisbane. So today we're going to have a quick talk through intelligent docks and how we can use dock scheduling solutions to reduce congestion, demurrage, overtime, and emissions. So dock scheduling, we talk about dock scheduling like traffic control for warehouse logistics. So for those of us who remember, who used to get on a plane now and then, there's a place called an airport, and control around flights coming and going in and out of airports obviously has a whole lot of moving parts in behind it. And whilst I'm sure we've also all had flights delayed or cancelled, generally the process runs pretty smoothly But you can imagine it would be a complete disaster if there wasn't that planning and processing behind that. And it's no different for ports. And this picture is obviously quite an extreme example. But without dock scheduling solutions for busy locations, we can impact local roads, we can impact the dock itself and the warehouse, we can impact the local community as well. So dock management has evolved over many years. As I say, airports have been using the same sort of process thinking for a long time. Seaports do, and most major warehousing and DC operations have some form of scheduling for their docks already. There's continual pressure to improve our supply chain performance, and that includes dock productivity. And all DCs, large or small, can benefit from dock scheduling. And not all DCs and load-unload areas are the same. Sizes can change, configurations can change, but ultimately they can all benefit from having some form of planning around their operation. So supply chains and distribution centres are a very complex network. DCs are impacted by many and various supply chain stakeholders, and that list of stakeholders can include manufacturers, suppliers, processing plants, warehouses, carriers, retailers, and ultimately the consumers. And through that whole process, there's many places where a scheduling solution can help along that chain. So the aim of scheduling freight movements to DCs and to meet their requirements, rather than simply accepting freight movements as an outcome of the supply chain, stakeholders with no control around that commercial relationship. So all those coming and going from a DC will impact on a DC's traffic pattern, and managing who and when they have access to a DC or a warehouse ensures that that traffic flow is managed and the freight coming in and out is consistent with the business need. So why efficient dock scheduling matters? So firstly, dock scheduling can help with accurate staffing levels. So adjusting staff levels to match the expected activity based on those scheduled shipments in and out of that warehouse or DC. Eliminating overtime. So if we accurately understand what loads are coming and going and when, we can plan shifts around that to try and reduce or eliminate overtime. And warehouse staff can be prepared for incoming and outgoing shipments. It's making sure we've got outgoing stock stage, making sure we've got the likes of forklifts and operators ready to unload incoming. We had a long-term customer who deployed our dock scheduling solution many years ago. And when asked why, what's one of the major outcomes you want out of investing in such a solution, the answer was that at 6 a.m. most mornings, he'd stare out the window and count how many trucks were queued on the street. And based off that, he'd then call his temp labour agency to organise his day's staffing requirements. Increasing the dock effective utilisation. So implementation of dock scheduling software can increase a dock throughput by as much as 50%. Controlling the number and type of vehicles by time of day, again, adds to that efficiency. So avoiding the peaks and troughs of activity, and that's not just about from hour to hour through a day, but also on days of the week. We've probably all been in organisations and situations where Mondays and Fridays seem to be hellishly busy compared to the rest of the week. Trying to iron some of those peaks out and level out some of the troughs is an important way of using this type of solution. Streamlining the processes to provide a single source of truth for supply chain stakeholders. So highly adaptive, allowing users to easily make and record changes as opposed to a paper-based process. Simplifying the appointment scheduling system so carriers can make those bookings online. The visibility of the arrival times, types and quantities of inbound and outbound goods. The visibility of the scheduled arrival times for the outbound carriers. And dock resourcing plan to meet that known demand. So overall, we're trying to reduce phone calls and emails and those types of communications by using that single source of truth. Reducing costs, so being able to verify things like demurrage charges. So carriers may well be claiming for demurrage charges with a solution that does the planning. We can also look at the execution. So what time did the vehicle arrive? How long was it on the dock for to unload or load? What time did it depart? Does any of that match up with their potential claim for demurrage? Again, the overtime piece for DC staff due to inaccurate activity estimates and errors in inventory forecasting could end up causing potential out of stock fees to be charged. Reducing dock congestion. So to be able to plan when vehicles will be on site, reduce congestion in the docks and parking areas, reduce congestion on surrounding streets and roads, and control or restrict site access as required. And those photos there are actually provided by one of our clients. And that was a shot of their load unload area prior to our solution being implemented, and then how the team entertained themselves during the quieter times of the day after they'd implemented our solutions. And some sites control every movement of every vehicle in and out of their site, which might include things like the rubbish truck, parts deliveries, food deliveries, whatever's coming or going from that location. Increasing site security and reducing operational risks. So an efficient DC requires controls to limit access to the site for authorised vehicles and personnel only. Integration with access control capabilities like license plate recognition, boom gates that are operated off those license plate recognition tools, controlling the number and type of vehicles at any time and not during a day, full visibility of the time a vehicle and a driver spends on the site, and incorporating risk management processes. So we're all living in the world of COVID at the moment. I've been to many DCs of late where recording people's temperature is just another part of what they do. Where do you keep that type of data relative to a driver? Also here in Australia, we have some legislation that's commonly known as chain of responsibility. We can certainly ask some questions around the driver relative to that legislation, which can help our risk management processes. So some typical benefits of this type of solution, as I've said, reducing congestion on the sites, reducing congestion on surrounding roads, controlling and restricting site access, improving safety, so limiting access to those who need to be there, controlling the number and type of vehicles, improving the site amenities, so scheduling the activities for more organised locations, greater security, again, access for inbound deliveries, contractors, service agents, whoever's coming or going from that site, we know who they are, we know when they were there and how long they were there for, and improving the visibility around the types and quantities of inbound and outbound goods, and dock resource planning so we can meet that demand better. So our solution is called MOBILEDOCK. So just a little bit about MOBILEDOCK. So MOBILEDOCK's about accepting and approving requests from carriers and then executing the dock movement and managing the outputs of that process with a lens of constant improvement. How can we do that better so that we get vehicles in and out of our locations a little more timely? Excuse me. So traditionally, loading docks have been planned manually and executed manually. Somewhat messy, it's uncontrolled and inefficient, doesn't manage time, cost or risk very well. There's lots of moving parts, back to the many phone calls and emails and all those types of things. So how do we drive best practice? So automated and coordinated is what MOBILEDOCK aims to do. And it's an electronic execution. So it's planned and it's controlled, and it allows a dock master or a site manager to understand exactly what's going on their location. It's quite easy to use. It's got a very intuitive booking wizard, which the carriers use to make their bookings. It's quite a simple step-by-step process. Again, as I say, it's very intuitive. And it's easy for carriers, and they end up with their booking confirmation. About 95% of the bookings that are made through our system are auto-approved. So MOBILEDOCK stores and understands the rules and constraints that impact each of the DCs and warehouses, things like hours of operation, types of vehicles for particular docks, load unload times for specific vehicles, and it helps the carrier find a time slot that suits all of those constraints. From a driver's point of view, not all drivers are created equal, and we need to cater for all of their requirements. Some are more technologically advanced than others and are quite happy to scan a QR code from their phone. Others like to have a printed piece of paper, which their scheduler is probably handed to them. Some of them still love the good old yellow sticky note with a note scribbled on it. All of those ways are very acceptable and can be used to book a vehicle in to a site. And from a dock manager, their visibility of what's going on their site by dock, by hour, is really visible. We're looking at a sort of a Gantt chart style there that can be tailored to suit individual preferences. That one's looking at just, you know, a day. You can look at a week, a month. You can look at just one individual dock, and you can also look at what's already happened or what has happened in the past as well. And then from a reporting point of view, the data is probably the key out of all of this. Whilst it's great that we've been more efficient and that we've controlled who's coming and going from our sites, the data allows us to improve on that. And we can look at what vehicle types, as an example, have come in and out of our location over a period of time. Are there some docks that are more efficient than others? Are there some docks that are underutilised for whatever reason? The matrix in the middle is probably the most important for me, because that helps us understand how our carriers or our suppliers are performing. So that across the top is how long the vehicle was on site. Down the left-hand side is what time did they arrive relative to their booking time. The sweet spot sort of sits in the middle, if you like, around here. It's a little hard to read because it's a little dull, but you know, we want to be on time and we want to be on site for the expected amount of time. So that sort of leads us to our sweet spot here. With all this other data, what can we do to help that be more efficient? How can we help our carriers and our suppliers understand they need to be here on time? How can we make sure that we're managing our people?
1 second, it's turned down.
How are you, mate?
No, it's okay. No. Sorry. Yep, I'm here.
Can we mute Ingleby? There we go. How do we make sure that we get our trucks off our docks on time? Do we need more personnel on each dock? Do we need better forklifts? What can we do to be more efficient? MOBILEDOCK also has some very open APIs. So we can integrate with all sorts of different systems and solutions. We can have drivers checking in and out via a barcode or a PIN or a QR code. We can access the solution from a phone or a smart tablet. And as I said earlier, we can automate access through license plate recognition, which can be connected to automated boom gates. We can also integrate with systems such as induction systems. So we understand, is the driver inducted to this site? Can he go straight to the dock that he's been allocated to, or does he need to go to a parking bay to do a quick and simple site induction? And finally, our difference for here in the Australian market, we've got a local presence. Best Train's been operating here for over 15 years now. The MOBILEDOCK solution was developed locally, and we directly provide support to our customers and their carriers and how they engage with the solution. MOBILEDOCK's used by an increasing range of customers and carriers in the Australian market. To date, we've managed over 4.5 million appointments, and we have more than 3,000 suppliers or carrier relationships already established. And our experience and local presence means that implementation risks are very low, if not non-existent. And there's a bit of an example there of some of our customer base that currently use our solution. Our warehousing customers are a little more coy about having their names up in lights, but if you use a mixer in your drink or you use a chaser after a stiff drink, you're probably drinking something that was scheduled by our solution. or if that made you feel a little rusty the next day and you needed a pick-me-up, you might have well gone to a chemist or somewhere like that, that the solution that you're taking was provided to you by MOBILEDOCK. So thank you for that. I'll open up to any thoughts, comments, questions. Thank
you, Adam. I do have a question. How does a scheduling system help manage COR?
So COR looks at a number of components of a heavy vehicle operator, being the vehicle speed, the maintenance of the vehicle, management of the mass and dimension of the load, and the fatigue of the driver. So through this solution, we get the opportunity to have the driver complete a very brief questionnaire when he pulls up or she pulls up at site. Do you have enough hours left on your logbook to complete the task you're about to undertake? Do you have the right restraints for the load you're about to place on your vehicle? Is there any maintenance issues with your vehicle that you'd like to call out at this point in time? And more often than not, you're probably going to get a whole host of really good answers to those questions, but it is a very important step in a warehouse's place in that chain of responsibility to be able to ensure that they are asking the right questions and ticking those boxes through that process. Scourge of the 21st century, Karen, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Yes, I'm surprised that Kim hasn't come up with a question to tell you.
I was typing.
Were you? Okay. You wouldn't let me down.
No. I'm just interested because I've had experience dock-wise with certain 3PLs whom I won't name, but who, shall we say, organise probably, well, they insist that the customer hire one of their dock managers so the dock manager can manage the incoming flows basically for that particular distribution centre. The customer blithely pays for that manager, sort of on behalf of the 3PL. But what usually happens is what they're effectively doing is hiring a dock manager that's basically paid for by the customer, but instructed by the 3PL, that actually gives the 3PL's transport operations and transport subcontractors priority over actually dock unloading. This is not uncommon in Australia that this has happened, and I would suggest that having a good mobile dock management system in place would basically save people from this, let's call it a con job, basically, or if that's too strong a word. But I'd just be interested in your thoughts on that.
Look, that is a reality, Kim. You're not suddenly dreamt that up all on your own. And I think, the reporting that we can pull from a solution like MOBILEDOCK will actually highlight that type of activity quite quickly to the customer or the owner of that warehousing or DC operation. So you'll be able to see which of the carriers are performing at their best, and if that dock master is doing his job properly, then his own 3PL should be. But you'll also be seeing that other 3PLs are constantly delayed, and go and ask questions of those 3PLs. Well, why are you constantly delayed through any good supplier management process? And you'll probably get to the root cause of that problem quite quickly. But at least you've got the data to be able to go and have those conversations and come to those conclusions.
I have another question here as well, Adam. It says, it's from Mick Paisley. It says, when a truck complies with MOBILEDOCK, does this result on occasions with difficulties in scheduling at the destination? That is, can your system integrate with other DC systems that result in a compromise?
Well, short answer is yes, because we always say yes. much longer answer is how do we do that? So we've got some customers that they will do trips from, say, Brisbane to Melbourne with a load from one DC to another, and then reload at that DC to go back the other way. So I'm not sure MOBILEDOCK's the right answer for that solution that Mick has spoken about, but there's definitely ways of using both the telematics in the truck, talking to a system like MOBILEDOCK to be able to take estimates that that truck will arrive at that DC at 8 o'clock tomorrow, or whatever the case may be. So there's ways of using that technology to be able to get to that answer.
Okay, Ingleby's posted one as well. Vaccine and QR code sign-in. Can MOBILEDOCK provide that?
Yes, yes, it can. There was I'm sure you've seen the slide a few times, Ingleby, with the QR code scanner on the MOBILEDOCK on a driver's phone. We could integrate that with whether it's the Victorian, New South Wales, Queensland, whichever government application, to be able to include that same information.
Okay, I have no more questions. Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you very much for a very insightful presentation on MOBILEDOCK and its capabilities. I look forward to seeing some more of the digital space taking over some of the paper-based activities that has been sometimes a thorn in one side in the industry over the years, and lost paperwork at that too in a lot of cases.